Hey there, I'm Brandon Brashears. I'm the author of Ace the Interview and Land Your Dream Job. And if you're preparing for interviews and want to talk in a confident, clear, and totally ready to impress manner, then you're at the right place. Today we're going to break down the top 10 most common interview questions, the ones that really matter, how to answer them like a pro. So this is your 20 to 30 minute crash course. So, basically, let's go. The first interview question that you're almost always going to get is something like, tell me about yourself, or can you go over your background with me? Can you tell me about your resume? So basically, it's the classic opener. Tell me about yourself. So this is where I go over in my book, Land Your Dream Job, really about how you build a branding statement. And you kind of build a statement that is about you that you can use either as an elevator pitch or in an interview, or if you're just talking to somebody and they're asking you what you do for a living. You kind of have a basic statement that you've hopefully kind of memorized, and then from there that kind of gives you the confidence to answer these questions. So the classic opener, tell me about yourself, it's actually probably the most important interview question, the most common interview question, and in some ways the hardest one to answer. Keep in mind, these interviewers aren't trying to find out, about your childhood and where you grew up and necessarily, what interests you and what your hobbies are. What they're really asking you is, how can you help us? Why should we hire you? Tell me about yourself. I go over that tip at another chapter in the book, basically rephrasing these questions where you're thinking, why should they hire me? Or if they're asking, why should I hire you? Tell me about yourself. Why should I hire you? So that's the mind frame that you're going to want with every one of these questions. So basically, you would just describe your nutshell in a journey. It's not your life story. Interviews want a focused, confident overview of who you are professionally. So lead with that branding statement if you have one. So it's a concise snapshot of your professional identity, and then support it with one or two achievements, and close on why you're excited about this opportunity. So an example would be, I'm a strategic marketing leader with 10 years of experience driving growth for SaaS companies through digital strategy and team leadership at a very large company. I led a campaign that grew the annual revenue by about 30% in 6 months. And now I'm excited about this opportunity so I can scale and have even more impact with your company. So that's kind of the opener in a nutshell. It can be a lot of examples, but really what you want to do is have a statement of, who you are, what you've done, and how you can help solve their problem, or what value you bring to the company. And so that kind of leads us to the second question. And this is a pretty common question, especially early on. And it's basically trying to uncover your motivation. But you get a question like, why do you want this job? Why do you want to work for our company? What interests you about this role? Why did you apply to this role? So you'll get a lot of variations, but the question is, why do you want this job? Why should we hire you? And basically, interviewers want to know if you're really excited for the job, or if you're just sending out your resume and you're going to take whatever you can get. Really, a good interviewer, a good talent acquisition or recruiter, or a good hiring manager is trying to figure out really two things. For one, can you do the job? That's obviously the important role. But really deeper is, do you really want to do this job? You might be overqualified. It might be too big of a challenge. It might not quite be what you're looking to do. And maybe it's just a job that you want to take until you find something better. Maybe you were a manager and now you're just having a hard time finding a job. These are, and you're going to take whatever you can get. These are kind of things that recruiters and hiring managers and interviewers are trying to answer. And so this is a little bit of a kind of a question to answer any red flags. So be careful in that sense. But also, how motivated are you to really work in this job? Do you really want this job? So mention something specific about the company or the role that really excites you. Connect your skills in a long-term way. What's your intent? And the winning answer is one that's framed in the right way, that's sincere, and really goes over some of the skill sets that you have and things that you can add. So an example would be, your company's work in AI innovation just stands out to me. I've built AI-powered marketing funnels before, and this role gives me a chance to apply and grow those skills. Plus, your mission around ethical tech aligns with my values, and I personally understand the challenges I think you're facing in this new AI environment. So I think I can help solve these problems for you and bring that to the table. And I'm just so excited because this is just my passion. I love AI and innovation, and that's really where I want to be. So there's a good example of, explaining that you can do the job and that you really want to do the job. The other thing that you're kind of going to come across is maybe something that they're trying to have you kind of think on your feet. And maybe it's another area of, trying to have you bring up red flags on yourself or areas of concern for yourself. So they'll ask you some open-ended questions that are tricky. Like, what's your biggest weakness, or what are your weaknesses? Or what are some areas of development that you need? Or where could you improve? All these are questions that are aimed to kind of get you to think on your feet, see how you communicate, maybe see how authentic and honest you are, but also maybe there's a hint of poison in these questions where they maybe want you to see where you're going to sell yourself out or kind of tattle on yourself some areas of weakness that you might have or that might not work out for this particular job. So you have to also be careful here and then come back to that mindset. What are some of the areas that you need to improve on? Why should we hire you? And so this is really where you want to be honest and have a growth mindset. And don't try to be a perfectionist. And don't say, well, I'm a perfectionist. This is my weakness. And, and don't say, I don't think I have any weaknesses really. Maybe that doesn't look very humble to the interviewer, or maybe that looks like you're overqualified for this job and maybe you'll be bored in it. So pick some critical things, but some areas that you're improving, but they're not too important. For example, if you want to be a little better at using Excel and databases, but it's not that important to the job, you would say something like, hey, I really would like to improve in some making sure my data is clean and making sure that I'm using Excel in the right way. And right now I'm taking some online courses on that, and really it's actually helped me. So once I get into the job, I can't wait to apply some of these things that I've learned and be a little better with Excel and pivot tables and things like that. Another example would be public speaking. Everybody is at some level or another somewhat afraid of public speaking or large crowds. And so that's a relatable topic that you could say, especially if it's not that important to the job. You could mention, hey, public speaking in large groups has always been something that kind of scares me. It's a little bit of a challenge. So I joined Toastmasters and I volunteered to lead more company-wide meetings. It's made a big difference in my confidence. In fact, I love the challenge of speaking in public and creating speeches now. And it still kind of gives me butterflies in my stomach, but I think I've really grown and I'm great at that. So these are ways to shift these into a positive framework, things that you have improved on. And remember, employers don't necessarily want a person that can do everything 100%. They want about somebody that can, do it 75, 80% and then grow that other 15 to 20%. They don't want somebody that's going to step in and be bored and have been done that, bored, don't want to do it anymore. That's really not what they want. So the next the next question is also kind of a strategic question that's also aimed at kind of seeing kind of why you may or may not have left your job. And it's also kind of geared at, well, what are some red flags? Did you not get along with somebody? Did you underperform? Will you kind of reveal that? And so it's, again, another kind of a question that's kind of focused on seeing if you'll tattle on yourself and give any information that could raise a red flag to the interviewer. But honestly, most of the time people have left their jobs, it's for valid reasons. Maybe they got a promotion or a better opportunity, as often happens and has happened to me more than once, actually about 3 times. You're part of a reorganization. The company has troubles with financial issues, and they decide they're going to lay off people, especially if you're like me and in talent acquisition and recruiting. It's one of the first spots that companies look at when they're slowing down on hiring. So there's things like that, or companies don't do well. Companies go out of business. So there's a lot of reasons why people lose their jobs that are perfectly fine, but they are checking for red flags, and they want to see, what your motivation is. So keep it professional. Focus on growth. Focus on the positive. Do not have any complaints, and don't ever go into the negative. Don't speak badly about your previous employer. Don't speak badly about your previous boss or coworkers, or don't even speak badly about yourself and the job that you did. Keep everything positive. Keep it in a positive light. So an example would be, I loved my team and learned a lot at my previous company, but after a tough reorg, my role shifted away from strategic work, and they just didn't have a spot for me. So now I'm looking for a role that lets me drive initiatives and lets me push projects from end to end. And so I think this is the opportunity for me. There's a lot of different reasons why you might have left your job. The thing I'm trying to get you to kind of focus on is spin it on a positive light, and then maybe even add in some positive things that you might have learned about. The fifth most common interview question is something that I just think interviewers fall back on because they've probably heard it, and I think they're just really trying to get an idea of how you can handle stress, how you can handle competing priorities, how you can handle being a little overwhelmed. All these things are going to happen in a job. So, how do you handle stress, overwhelmment? How do you stay organized? So they're going to ask you an open-ended question like, tell me about a time when you had to manage competing priorities. So this is a question that I've kind of put in here and given it a twist where they're trying to use the STAR method, the situation, task, action, and result. And the reason they're doing the STAR method is they want to see a past example that you've actually done, something that you actually can give a true account of how you've reacted. Now, this is a tricky way to answer questions. It's the older method of answering interview questions, and it doesn't give you the advantage of kind of placing yourself in the role now and having the interviewer envision you in the role. If you can kind of go through the STAR method and give them that example, and then change it and transfer their brain and their mindset into the psychological trick of getting it into the present. Hey, this is what I did in the past, but this is how I would actually do it in the future. Do you have a situation right now that I can give you an example of how I would handle that? But still going back to the question, tell me about a time you handled competing priorities. They want proof that you can juggle tasks, stay calm under pressure, stress doesn't get to you, you can change directions. So use the STAR method, the situation, task, action, and result to kind of give a good example of something that you've done in the past. So I was leading 2 major product launches at once. I prioritized by impact and relocated some resources and communicated timelines clearly with stakeholders. Both launched on time, one even ahead of schedule. So not only did I give an example of what the situation was while I was leading 2 major product launches at once, and the task was that I had to really prioritize and reallocate some of those resources, and also, communicate timelines with stakeholders. So these are the things that I had to do as an action. And then I gave my result, and the result's positive. So they both launched on time, even one was ahead of schedule. And then if you want to take it to the next level and just kind of add that extra oomph, you would then try to see where you could steer it into the role currently. So can you give me an example, Mr. Interviewer, of a situation that you have right now? Do you have any competing priorities that I might run across right now? Or what competing priorities do you run across right now? And that will kind of let them give you an example. Well, we have a case where we have 3 major product launches. Now they are separated in different areas of the business. And so it makes it very challenging because we've got to deal with 3 different stakeholder groups. And you could kind of turn that back and say, that's really kind of what happened in my situation. I forgot to mention that I was working with 2 different stakeholder groups on these 2 product launches. So I'm really familiar with having to shift gears and change hats and get into a different group and make sure that we're communicating. And really it took a lot of organization, and I had to utilize my tools very well to do that. The next interview question is kind of another one to kind of see how you work with teams, what's your conflict resolution style, what kind of a leader you are, and again, kind of dealing with stress. When you're at work, other people can stress you, not just your work, and you can have people that are difficult to deal with, or just have different communication styles, or different needs, different priorities. So all this can kind of create conflict at times, and how you deal with that's really, really important. And this is the question: is how do you handle conflict at work? Why should we hire you? Are you going to be easy to work with? Are the team members going to like working with you? When there's issues, are you going to be able to handle them in the appropriate manner? Are you going to use good judgment? So they're watching for emotional maturity, professionalism, and collaboration. Do you make good sound judgment? Do you think before you say something? Do you think before you do something? Do you let things roll off of you that maybe could have been offensive or hurtful? Do you jump to conclusions, or do you find out all the facts? All these emotionally mature things are really important in the business world. And so for one, they want to see how that goes through your mind and how emotionally mature you are. And then they want to know how professional you are. Hey, this was just business, and I let things, roll off of my back because that's the way it happens. Or I've been through this many times, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. Or sometimes I have to just prioritize what I'm doing despite the pressure that I'm getting from other colleagues. I thought that was what was best for the business. So all these things are really, displaying professionalism. And then collaboration. You need to work as a team. A company is just a large group of people and team members all working together for the same goal. We want to do what's best for the business. We want to do what's best for the team. And so, what kind of a team member are you? Do you jump in and help people? Do you help mentor people even when you're not asked? Do you help solve problems whenever you can? Are you a good team member? Do you provide support? Are you friendly? Are you easy to work with? If somebody's not feeling good, do you lift them up? If they're feeling great, do you do you feel great with them and enjoy their success as well? So all this is really, the question is, how emotionally mature are you? How professional are you? And how well do you work with your teammates? So how do you handle conflict at work? Why should we hire you? And just show that you stay calm, listen well, you focus on resolutions and solutions, and you don't let little things bother you. And you have a thick skin at times, and you let things roll off your back when they're not really that important to the goal. And you keep what's important to the business and the company in mind at all times and work towards that goal. So an example could be, well, I did have a disagreement with a teammate on the strategy that we had. And so what I did is I set up a one-to-one conversation so we could align. So we both shared our views and we went back and forth. And, my teammate brought up some facts that, I'll be honest, I hadn't necessarily thought about, and I thought they were valid. And I think that she understood some things that I was talking about too. And so because of that, we kind of found a middle ground on our ideas. And so the result was that we built out a stronger campaign. And to be honest, working this out kind of made us have a better business relationship between each other. And I think we know that we can work through challenges together. That's really empowering. And that's what I think I can bring to the table here. I really work well with people on the team, and I use good judgment. So if that's what you're looking for, I can do that. Now, number 7, the 7th kind of most common interview question is, again, it's a question that gets asked all the time. If you're early in your career, you're almost guaranteed to be asked this question. If you're later in your career, it could be an interesting question to get. And it can be hard to answer. Everybody has different goals 5 years from now and what they want. Some people want to start a business. Some people want to be in management. Some people want to be retired. Some people want to switch industries. So really the question is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And it's a test. It's a test for your ambition, for your clarity, your alignment with growth paths, and how do you fit within the company? I mean, if you absolutely are dead set on being in management in 5 years and there's just no opportunity for management within that role, that could be a red flag. Or if you absolutely do not want to lead people and coach people and be a mentor and a manager, and the reason that they're hiring for the role is because they need to build out their leadership organization, then you're not going to be a fit there. So you do need to be a little bit clear and careful on how you answer this. And you can be too ambitious for certain roles, to be honest, and you can be not ambitious enough for other roles. And you can also have goals in 5 years that don't align with the team, the business, and the company, that also can be red flags. So that's why they're answering all these questions. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? It's actually a great psychological question because it actually forces the interviewer to go on a journey with you and envision you in the role and in 5 years. So if you can start getting some examples of successes you'll have in the role and have them start psychologically seeing you in the role, it's going to put you on that path to get hired. So tie your answers to the job and the company. Show that the role fits your long-term plan. I've asked people this question, and they've given me some strange answers. I got, well, I think in 5 years I'm going to be retired. And that's a fair answer, but I don't know if that exactly influences me to want to move you in on the process. Or in 5 years, I think I'm going to own my own business and I'm going to start my own company. That's also something that's okay. Maybe you won't be around in 5 years. Do we want to invest in you? So there's some things like that that you do want to be careful with. So tie your answer to the job and the company. Show that this role fits your long-term plan. So an example could be, in 5 years, I see myself leading a high-impact team, ideally here, scaling AI programs that drive customer success. I mean, this role is the perfect foundation to get there. I've been studying AI myself, and I see that your company is implementing AI into their customer success programs. And so that's the direction that I want to go. And I really want to lead people, and I want to drive AI innovation. In 5 years, I think I'll be a manager of your AI innovation area. So, this is where you kind of get to be creative and honest and take it in a ton of directions. If you're really, really ambitious, you may need to tone that down just a tad. You don't necessarily want to say, in 5 years, I'd like to be the CEO of this company. It could be unrealistic. Okay, so number 8. Number 8 is a question that usually comes either really, really early or really, really late or both. It's basically addressing compensation. What are your salary requirements? What are your salary expectations? And some companies are really weird and quiet and guarded with it. And some candidates are very quiet, guarded, and don't want to talk about it. But the truth of the matter is, you've got to make sure you're somewhat aligned. I mean, there's always a range for the most part that companies can pay. And there's usually a range that people are looking for. And there's a lot of factors that weigh into what your salary needs to be. I mean, there's growth. There's how much you enjoy the role. If the role is work from home or work in the office. If there's benefits. There's all kinds of things that fit in. But salary is an important factor. Some people it's super important. Some people it's not important at all. So this one's tricky. Really, it's more of just trying to assess a fit without overcommitting, and also trying to make sure that we're not wasting everybody's time. If you're looking for $200,000 a year salary and the job's only going to be paying $75,000 a year, it's a complete waste of time. Also, there's a red flag if if the job is paying $200,000 a year and you only want $75,000. There's got to be a question that kind of comes up with the interviewer there too, like where's this mismatch? So you want to do your research, have an idea of what they should be paying in the role, or try to ask some open-ended questions and get where they're at. But there's nothing wrong with actually kind of deflecting the question and asking for the range. And you could say something, so the question is, what are your salary requirements, or what is the salary that you're expecting? What are you looking for compensation-wise? And you could really say, to be honest, I'm really open. I was doing some research. I saw on Glassdoor that it looked like you probably have a range of 80 to 100K in this particular role. But I was going to ask you that question, like, what have you budgeted out for this role, or what are you looking to pay in this role? Once in a while, you might get caught in this back and forth. I don't know. What are you looking for? Well, I'm looking for the best pay that I can find. Oh, what are you paying? Well, our salary is very competitive. Great, because I'm looking for a very competitive salary. Excellent. So what salary is that? Well, I'd like to find out what you're paying. Most companies don't do that, to be honest. They're fairly transparent. A lot of laws are now kind of requiring salary to be listed. And you can usually go on good websites and research this and find out where you belong. You do have to be careful too. If you made a lot of money in your previous role, but you aren't trying to get that much, say you made $150,000 in your previous job, but you're really okay with taking $100,000 a year, you know that you were just paid really well and you were in a lucky situation, you just want a good, decent job. Be careful about saying, well, I made $150 in my last job. It could raise a red flag. Oh, he's a great candidate, but we can't afford him. He's going to want $150. That's the thinking that sometimes happens, especially with recruiters. They don't want to waste everybody's time. So if you really only need $100,000, even though you got paid more in your last job, you can just basically just kind of find out what they're paying and tell them, hey, that works perfectly with me. That's what I'm looking for. Money's not that important to me. I'm just going to give you an example. So if somebody says, hey, what's your salary expectations? You could say, based on my market research and kind of my experience, it looks like this role would tend to pay a range between 100 and I'm guessing $120,000. I'm flexible and I'm really more focused on the fit, the growth, and the overall compensation package. So I'd really love to kind of know what you have budgeted for the role. Did you guys determine what a budget would be for this role? So you kind of gave an answer that was that I did my research. I'm open. Here's what I think it probably pays. Can you tell me what it pays? And usually you should get a pretty direct answer. Even if it's a little high, they might come back and say, hey, 120 is really a little high. We're probably going to be more closer to that 100 area, but you're right. That's about where we're going to be at. Is that okay with you? Does that work for you? Yeah, absolutely. $100,000. That's within what I'm looking for. And I kind of expected that, so perfect. Question number 9 is one where we're trying to get you to basically say something negative. Let's see if you can say something negative about your previous company, previous boss. Let's just see what we're dealing with. So, have you ever had a difficult boss, or who was the most difficult boss that you've ever worked with, or did you ever have a difficult boss? So, this is an interesting question. You usually don't get that question, but you might get it if there's a concern. And it could go both ways. This is a red flag question, both for the interviewer and you, the person being interviewed, because this job might frankly have somebody that's not a great boss. It might have somebody that's difficult to deal with. And why they're in that role, I don't know. But maybe they want to see if there's somebody that actually can deal with a difficult boss. And that's who they need to hire, because this boss is difficult to deal with and he's hard on people. So if you get asked that question, you might have to wonder yourself, is this boss difficult to deal with? Maybe he is, or she is. So there's something to think about, that some information you're getting from the interview question. Or maybe they're just worried about you. How do you get along with people? So this question is kind of checking for blame or drama, or to see if you have a victim mentality, or see how you can discuss challenges that you've had, or how you blame challenges or have a victim mentality. And some people do. Just stay professional and focus on what you learned and how you adapted. And if it is a red flag for you, if it is something where it kind of brings up some concerns, like maybe this boss is difficult and you don't want to deal with that, you could maybe kind of come back and ask them. So is there a particular scenario or case in this company? And you may once in a while actually get an interviewer that's not the hiring manager just honestly tell you, yeah, to be honest with you, we've gone through 3 different analysts in the last 2 years because the boss is really hard on them and he requires us to, work evenings and weekends. And that might actually change whether you want the job, or if you don't mind that, then you can just go ahead and say, yeah, I've had some very difficult bosses and I have no problem with that. But whatever you do, stay focused and really, make sure that you're answering the question in a positive manner. So an example could be, one manager preferred a very top-down approach, while I like a lot of collaboration. And so I adapted by kind of just proactively sharing my updates and aligning my expectations early and communicating early and beforehand. And that helped us build trust. And so, that basically allowed the manager to get the information from me and know that I was doing my job, and then come in with his feedback and his approach. And, that's kind of a way to say, hey, I was micromanaged by somebody and they really wanted things done their way. But I worked through that. I communicated, and I still thrived and was able to kind of get the job done. And then eventually, he stopped micromanaging me, and because I built enough trust up with him. Those are some things that are great examples, but worded in a different way by not saying something negative like micromanage, but instead saying something like a top-down approach. And saying, instead of saying something like, I don't like being micromanaged, you saying something like, I thrive in collaboration and, like to, solve problems on my own. So the last question is probably the easiest question, and also something that you really, want to take the opportunity to kind of brag with the interview about. What are your greatest strengths, or what are you best at? What's your biggest talent? Another way that it sometimes gets worded is, what would your colleagues say was your greatest strength? And that's a great way to actually word it. If you want to appear to be more humble, you can say something like, well, I don't know necessarily that it's my strength, but I know that I've had a lot of colleagues say that I'm really easy to work with, and that I jump in and help them on projects whenever I can, and whatever it takes to get something done, I do it. So, my strength is that I'm really strong at team collaboration. At least that's what my colleagues have always said. But this is your chance to shine. But do it with proof, not fluff. Maybe you do have some actual examples. So pick 2 or 3 strengths that match the job, and use, measurables, and really make sure you've read this job description and know, hey, where do they really need some strength in this role? So for example, if the role is really something that's a strategic role, then you could say, well, I think my best strength is strategic thinking. At my previous company, I revamped our product positioning, increasing conversions by over 25%. And another is team leadership. I've had to build out and lead teams that hit our key performance indicators. And I had to do that by making sure that all my team, the people on my team, were engaged and motivated and well-informed, and we well communicated with as we work through all these changes and challenges. So there's a couple of examples, depending if you're in a leadership role or in a planning role, that you can kind of give. But go through the job and really understand what's needed, and try to mold that into the answer of what are your greatest strengths. So there you have it. There's basically 10 of the most common, most critical interview questions decoded from the point of view of a hiring manager and a recruiter and somebody that's been through the interview process and seen all the successes on both sides, that's been successful in interviews, that's failed in interviews. These are really the mindsets and how to answer these 10 questions. And these are the 10 most common questions that you're likely to see. If you want more real-world answers and questions like these, you can grab my book, Ace the Interview. It's on Amazon. It's actually packed with strategies, sample answers, insider insights, and other things to help you land your dream job. It's, again, Ace the Interview, Master Tricky Questions, and Land Your Dream Job. These are proven strategies and examples that actually work. And like this video if it helps you. Comment below. I have a question. What's your toughest interview question? What do you think's the most asked interview question? So subscribe for more content on interviews, job hunting, and career growth. And good luck out there. You've got this. We'll see you after you get your dream job.